Hi, we are ready to make our cheesecake recipe that we've talked about in a couple other videos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this into two. I'm going to make the crust one video, and then we will go ahead and make the cheesecake batter and put the cheesecake together. That way, if someone is looking for a crust recipe, they don't have to watch the whole cheesecake recipe to get that. So I am going to be using a springform pan. I think this is a 9-inch springform pan. So this is what we're going to make our cheesecake in. What I have here is 1 cup of pecan pieces and 1 cup of soaked and dehydrated almonds. We found pecan pieces for like $5.50 a pound at Winco. So if you have a Winco in your area, I suggest going and looking there. Other than that, the pecans that we've been buying are usually about $9 to $12 a pound, which is fairly expensive for us. So I tend to not use pecans all that often, but we were lucky enough to find them at a decent price. So I have 1 cup of soaked and dehydrated almonds. There's almonds in here, and I have 1 cup of pecan pieces. Now, if what you have is whole pecans, you don't need to chop it up. This is going to do that for you. And so we are going to, first what I'm going to do is I am going to start to process this, and then I will show you what I do with the dates. The only other thing I'm going to put in here is dates. I usually use the food processor to chop up the nuts, and then I put the dates in one at a time. And I don't usually measure them, but I'm going to try to do that for this recipe. So what I'll do, because this is going to be loud when I start, is I will start with 1 cup of pitted dates. Now, medjool dates would be the best option for this recipe. I am not using medjool dates because Winco sells these dates, and I'm not sure what they're called. I'd have to look at the paper, but these dates are only about $3 a pound at Winco, and that's much more reasonable for our budget. And so if you can afford medjool dates, definitely use them. If not, if you have a big family like us, or if you're on a budget like we are, then any soft date will do. You don't want to soak them. It'll make the crust too wet. So let's go ahead and start to process this. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's about what I like it to be. It's crumbly, but it will stick together. That seems about perfect. So if you can tell, it's kind of crumbly if you were to just play with it, but if you pick it up and you squeeze it, it will stick together, and that's what you want, because we're doing a cheesecake recipe, so we just want that crumble type at the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to pour this into my springform pan and just flatten it down. And that's all I'm going to do. You could double this recipe if you want the crust to come up the sides of the cheesecake. I wasn't going to have it come up the sides. I just wanted a nice crust for the bottom, kind of like you would normally see with the cheesecake. Now I have made cheesecakes that the crust came up about halfway up the side. Sometimes I like that. I'm not a big cheesecake eater. To me it's too sweet. I'm not a huge sweet person. Rigo absolutely loves cheesecake. One of the things that held him back from going 100% raw in the beginning when we were doing high raw was the fact that he didn't want to have to give up cheesecake. And so on Valentine's Day of that year when we were high raw, I made him a raw cheesecake, and he came home and he took a bite of that cheesecake and he said, "That's the best cheesecake I've ever had." He ate the entire cheesecake in that one sitting along with his dinner. So ever since then he said, "I can do this raw thing," and we have been raw. There's a little chunk of a date, so I'm taking that out of there. Alright, so here is my crust for my cheesecake. And so check the next video for the filling. Thank you.